when I would get these things in the mail that said Coyotes in the Presidio, what made me laugh is they would say things like, I don't, this part is fine, but they were like, don't harm them, but, you want to not be near them. So their one idea was like, make loud sounds because they don't like that. And the other was grab a rock and don't throw it at them, but throw it near them. And I was like, yeah, all those rocks that are super available.
That was musician and hairstylist Chris Onesorg. I'm Jeff, and this is the Storied San Francisco podcast. It's a way to get to know your neighbors. Every week on the podcast, we feature musicians, bartenders, writers, photographers, and other San Franciscans talking about living, working, and doing their thing here. Welcome to episode 30, part 1. In this podcast, Chris talks about working in mayoral candidate Mark Leno's sign shop in the Castro. He ends part 1 with some observations he's made about the city through his experiences as a hairstylist. Here's Chris.
Do you want a Mark Leno story?
I would love a Mark Leno story. You mentioned that on email, and it piqued my interest.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I worked at Good Vibrations for 2.5 years, and I knew I didn't want to work there much longer at about 1.5 years or 2 years, and it's a place where, at the time at least, you were able to give like really significant notice. So I was like, I'm going to give 6 months notice.
Oh.
I'm either going to find another job, but in the meantime, I'm going to save up a bunch of money so I can maybe not work for a month or something. And so I did that. And then I just decided to temp for a while. And so I had like one thing here, one thing there. And I don't think this was a temp. Maybe it was a temp job, but I think I responded to it maybe on Craigslist, but it was hiring like a front desk person for a place called Budget Signs. And I didn't know at first it was owned by Mark Leno. This was in 2005.
Was he still a supervisor then?
I don't know. See,
I'll figure that out later.
We'll find out. We'll Google that.
Yeah.
But he didn't, he owned the business, but there was a manager. And she was my boss. And I worked there for a few months, and then something came up in terms of like a better job with better money that I ran off to. But while I worked there, it was kind of fun. It was like me and this manager and then 2 people in the back making signs. And the main things I knew about Mark Leno, he came in once or twice. He was very friendly.
Short.
Well, but I'm short.
Okay.
Like I'm 5'9". I feel like he's around my height.
He's a slender guy?
Yes.
So he seems tall.
He's a runner. So he's a runner and he has really good teeth. So I met him and was like, I am fat and my teeth are not great. But every gay man I meet, I'm like, what about you is better than me? Mm-hmm. But he was very friendly. And he was always the thing I really came to see working there. Although we kind of joked about it, was he was very frugal. Mm. The place is called Budget Signs, and it definitely is. But at one point, there was a couple little like storage closets that we were just like tidying up and decluttering a bit. And I would never say he was a hoarder in any way because the office was clean and well managed. He had his own office where the door was always closed because he had a parrot. Oh. That he kept in there. So if you went in, like the manager could go in and the bird was fine. But if I went in there, the parrot would have like a complete conniption. Which is actually fine because I have a weird bird allergy.
Okay.
So being in a room with a bird, not great. But I would never say he was a hoarder, but I'd say he's someone who just doesn't, like everything was neatly organized in these closets, but he doesn't throw stuff away. And we were digging through and we were like filing and doing whatever. And at one point, I found a super old floppy disk, and not like a square size of a drink coaster floppy disk, but like a big, almost size of a 12-inch LP with a big hole in the middle of it.
Holy moly.
Floppy disk. And I was like, I think I was 6 when this first came into existence.
Mm-hmm. Like, are there even machines that can read it?
But, as he runs for mayor, people can be assured that I don't think he is someone who is wasteful with money. And is but I mean, as someone who was running a business, and the business still exists, it's still there. and so I can say I've indirectly worked for Mark Leno, very indirectly.
And got a sense of part of his core of who he is.
Yes. Yeah. And the funniest thing about working there didn't really involve him, but at one point they wanted to hire, they had like one person in the sign shop and they needed a second to kind of help out and be a bit of not an assistant, but have like two sets of hands working on stuff. And so they did a Craigslist posting and things like that. And my boss had set up like a specific email address for hiring, for new hires. Mm-hmm. And so she just tasked me with not picking who would be a candidate, but going through and just finding emails where people are like, because they required certain experience with certain software and certain tools and programs and, hardware. And it was like people who are like, I don't have experience with XYZ, but I'm a fast learner, just delete it.
Right.
Because we want people who already have some experience so we can just basically have them come in and start making signs. Mm-hmm. So as I was filtering through them, just because I'm in English, and she's like, or if somebody just seems like completely just,
wackadoodle.
Right. Like super inappropriate, filter them out. And one person had sent in what seemed like a really promising like resume and email cover letter. And I think most of us have some version of like our full name or our first name and last initial or first initial and last name for like work and professional emails. And then we have our like number one, cheese lover 75. This person sent their resume and cover letter in from a tadbit tipsy at hotmail.com. And I was like, oh girl, no. Oh and my boss thought it was like, I had to forward it to her and be like, obviously I'm deleting this, but this is amazing. And a lot of the communication that my boss and I had, we did it over email just so things were documented, even though our desks were like 20 feet from one another. So for like a week, instead of being like, sincerely, we'd be like signing off like, shooting up in the bathroom at, earthlink.net, 12 martini lunch at AOL.com, and like just making up all these email names that were like, here's about how wasted I'm going to be when I come work for you. I was like, how?
And Hotmail, which whatever.
Yeah. And it was like, Hotmail was like, one of the first free? Yeah. Like you could have like 85 Hotmail addresses. Mm-hmm. So why didn't she have one that was like, Karen needs a job or whatever? Like, I'm assuming she was a tad bit tipsy. When she sent her tad bit tipsy from Hotmail email.
But she remembered that password at least.
Right.
Like bowling or whatever.
It was probably password.
Yeah.
Password 69. I think actually the biggest thing for me, my biggest sort of overall experience of being a hairstylist in San Francisco is that it's never ceases to amaze me how many people here have a ton of money and are really low key about their grooming and appearance. Like, and I'm not someone who's like, I want everyone to be like styled, coiffed, blown out, magazine perfect. But it's really interesting how many people I'm like, you could probably buy and sell me. I have great clients. They're wonderful. They don't make me feel terrible, but I know what a lot of them do. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you could probably buy and sell my life in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And yet I don't think you own a brush. Right? Like I have a number of clients who I've gotten them more on the train of styling their hair and they like how they look and they feel good and but it's a sort of bizarre city where there is a lot of money. There is a lot of potential for that. And I see some neighborhoods like the Marina and places where people are more conscientious, but overall there's still a like ultra low key, no style kind of vibe to San Francisco where it's like, yeah, somebody comes shuffling in like sweatpants and a t-shirt, but they could be like a billionaire.
Right.
So, my joke is always that like, I just want to walk through the Mission with like a basket full of hairbrushes and just be like, just once a week.
It's almost like passive aggressiveness is like a thing here. It's almost a passive aggressive approach to appearances.
Right. And while I definitely see a shift in that, it's still remarkable that people in other places, like having lived in New York, having been to LA a lot, people show their money more. They wear it more, for lack of a better term. And here, like, you could see someone who looks dressed to the nines and maybe they just live off credit cards and have a shopping problem. You know, they love clothes. And then someone else who literally looks like, you know, they came stumbling out of their house to like get another 40 from across the street, you know, to continue their weekend of just like chilling. They
video games.
They're like, you know, a multi-billionaire.
Right.
And, you know, they just don't give a crap.
There's something very San Francisco about that.
Yeah. Like, we're not going to show it. But then they'll also get into a Tesla. Like, they'll get into a Tesla when they look like total garbage.
Right.
You know?
Their car looks better than they do.
Which also, I have a whole thing about, to me, Tesla just looks like a Buick from when I was like a kid in the 80s.
On my way here.
Yeah. Like,
I thought one was coming. I was crossing.
I find nothing alluring about them. They're really boxy.
Well, I thought it was a Tesla because it had the like diagonal white lights. That's kind of what I think. But it was like a Chevy.
Yeah, or it's like I always think it's like a Chrysler or some. But like the way they looked, like maybe when I was like in high school, like they're supposed to be this hot thing, and I'm like, I mean, they don't look enough. They don't look midlife crisis-y enough, you know, or like young, sporty enough. They sort of look weirdly boxy for this super expensive, you know, luxury, but whatever. So yeah, someone's getting into like a Tesla with like stained pajama pants and like a t-shirt from like, you know, a video game conference, but they could buy and sell your whole entire family like for what, you know, pocket change.
We recorded this episode at Chris's house in Lower Haight in April 2018. Music for the podcast is by Otis McDonald, a.k.a. Joe Bigale. Film photography is by Michelle Kilfeather. Please follow Storied San Francisco on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All the episodes and Michelle's photos of storytellers are up on our website, storiedsf.com. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review the show. You can reach us by email at storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening. Check back Thursday when we'll hear Chris share stories from his time in San Francisco bands.